Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's bring in our equities reporter, Joe Easton. Joe, let's start on Ryanair then. I was speaking to the CEO, Michael O'Leary, earlier on Bloomberg TV. They're saying that their plans to go to America kind of up in the air. What they are seeing are increased travel within Europe, fewer travellers possibly going from Europe to the United States, and there's a lift for the stock.
Sort of analyst commentary that I've been reading today saying that that is a positive indicator that they're continuing to see pretty strong bookings in terms of people travelling around Europe. And also, as you mentioned there, those comments from Michael O'Leary in the interview today that you did for Bloomberg TV, that was actually seen as pretty positive given the fact that he's not too concerned about tariffs in terms of how that's going to affect the delivery of Boeing jets and that kind of thing. So therefore the stock gaining pretty significantly. Actually, the best performing stock across the European market today were up 3.5%. And worth noting that the comments around the summer bookings, or how strong that's been, actually lifting some peers as well. So TUI, the third best performer on the market today, up a couple of percentage points. And the other airlines, EasyJet, Lufthansa, all getting a bit of a boost, pretty much lifted by the Ryanair commentary.
Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? Although the Ryanair CEO was telling you, Tom, that he's seen a decline in terms of transatlantic travel, but what a turnaround for Boeing after the crisis that they had, now to the inundation of new orders that we reported on last week. Anyway, so that's on airlines and travel. What about Diageo, though? Again, this is on the US tariff line.
Yeah, so Diageo saying today that they are seeing a bit of a change in terms of what some consumers doing in the US. So essentially they're saying that American customers, so you'd think this is mostly the restaurant chains and also the pubs and bars, have actually bought more of their products because they're concerned that tariffs could actually come through and therefore be a bit of more of a cost hit for the company. So that has actually boosted their sales, and they have also reiterated their guidance. That stock had been down pretty sharply over the past year or two, given the impact of tariffs. Even now, with a gain of around 1% today, it's still down around 22% over the past year. The other thing to note is the company is holding their Investor Day tomorrow at the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin. I think that has got to be the best place ever to hold an Investor Day. I mean, analysts, they must just be queuing up to get a ticket to that thing.
Of course, venue says it all, doesn't it? Projecting your image is hugely important.
I wish I could get a press pass for that one, but I don't think I'm going to be so lucky. But Diageo stock up around 1% ahead of that event.
Okay, Joe, and your aspirations around attending some of these events linked to Diageo and some of its products. Switching focus to the drug makers, and we're looking at Roche and some progress, it seems, in terms of Alzheimer's as a potential treatment for that disease.
Yeah, so this is interesting from the US. So US regulators approving the first blood test to help diagnose Alzheimer's. So a really big breakthrough. The test is made by a Japanese company, a unit of HU Group, cleared for people that exhibit signs and symptoms of the disease. So this blood test, it detects something called amyloid, get that right on the second pronunciation, a protein that builds up and is an early sign of Alzheimer's. So therefore, essentially, if there are greater testing of this and therefore greater diagnosis, it is positive for companies that make the drugs. So we're seeing Roche was a little bit higher in the pre-market, and also a Swedish company called BioArctic up around 4%, one of the best performers today, given that positive breakthrough and potentially a more widespread testing for Alzheimer's, boosting those pharma stocks today.
Okay. So that from Roche. In terms of the rest of the week, though, what are we thinking about? I mean, most of the European earnings are been and gone now. 90% or so have already reported, but we've got some of the big US retailers who are going to report. I thought the commentary out of Walmart last week was very interesting, that got pushback from the US president in terms of raising prices. The message again from the Trump administration, eat the tariffs. I wonder what else you're thinking about in terms of the outlook for corporate and company news for the rest of this week, Joe.
Yes, I think JD Sports, in terms of the retail, I know it sounds relatively small because of it's sportswear, but as a retailer, that's going to be interesting. They've got a lot of US exposure, also UK as well, so that is going to be a good one to watch in terms of their trading update. I think that is tomorrow, and then, actually, no, that is Wednesday. And then we've also got EasyJet, that will be out later this week, so will they say the same thing around strength in a good summer for airlines, or will there be any other kind of issues on the fuel pricing, maybe? So those are the two that really I'm going to be looking out for, I think, this week.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.